We've known each other since we were teenagers, early teenagers, really. We've grown up together. We had a period of time where we didn't know each other quite as well as we do now, but for the last, 10 years?
I think so.
We've been on mission trip together and a small group together.
That's right.
And we've seen a lot happen in our lives. And that's actually what we want to talk about today, is if we could go back and tell ourselves anything at like 29 and 30 years old about our 30s, things we got right.
That's right.
Things we got wrong, things that we wish we would go back and do over again. It's such a formative age where you're kind of fleshing out a lot of your beliefs about money, about marriage, about child training, all those things. What served us well, what worked, and what would be our advice to people who are about to hit that decade?
Oh, I love it. Love it.
Yeah. Okay. So, for me, I look at a lot of things in my life that I got right and wrong, but let's kind of take it out by topic. One of the things financially that I got right is my dad told me years ago when I was a teenager of the 80-20 rule. Mm-hmm. First 10% goes to God, next 10% goes to savings, 80% you live off of, and the goal is to grow those margins. So
that's right.
Get beyond tithe and start giving offerings, get beyond just 10% for savings, but begin to really look at investing. And he said, once those savings kind of accumulate, then from there look to where to invest and where to kind of put that money. I found that served me well. My only regret is not kind of taking those things further. And then I made some mistakes with some of those investments of where I put that 10% plus in different savings and things like that. But what have you seen financially that served you well in your 30s, or maybe you wish you would have done different there?
Man, I think you hit it. To the first thing you said with tithing. To me, and I know this is a church podcast, so tithing's probably one of those things that you have to say, but that was crucial to me. My parents started me off early tithing, whether it was mowing the yard or whatever the case was, but building that where money didn't have you, and you had money, but you were making sure you gave to God. That, to me, is the base. If you have that off, everything else can be off as well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, I would say starting now is one of the biggest things. I think so many people say, hey, I'll start this next year, I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to get on that. Just going ahead and getting started. And I think you have to be saving. You have to be paying down debt. And if you look at the billionaires, there's a lot of millionaires, right? I think there was like 4,000 new millionaires last year in the United States alone. But there's not
4,000 new millionaires.
4,000 new millionaires. Thank you. Yes. So when you look at billionaires, 75% of them said their best piece of advice was to get out of debt and stay out of debt. And then also, if you look at billionaires, every single billionaire owns their own business. And I think that's interesting because there's a lot of millionaires, there's a lot of people who got the kind of lucky gene pool, and they've had different things, hit a lottery, whatever the case was, it was pure luck.
Well, and then today, $1 million is not what it was.
It's not
20 years ago.
That's exactly right. So you got to look at the people, where you want to be, right? And so I think looking at them, I think that's a big one.
So get out of debt.
Yep.
Start your own business.
Start your own business, get out of debt, and not for everyone, starting your own business might not be the best thing. Right. But if you look at the truly wealthy, that's one thing they did because of the tax breaks and incentives and all the different stuff. And I would tell someone, if you're really passionate about something, start when you're in your 20s, right? And if starting something when you're 40s or 50s is a lot harder.
Yes.
You do not have the same energy that you do at 20 typically as you do in your 40s.
Yeah, well, and I think one of those things that I was so thankful for in starting this 80-20 rule, I started that in honestly high school. My dad would make me, you're going to tithe 10%, and then we're going to put this in savings. We're going to build a savings account, and then from there, you can take that savings wherever you want to take it, whether it's a down payment on a home, paying off debt, putting in an investment. Now I would strongly suggest everyone get in a 401k, especially if there's a company match.
100%.
That type of thing. I think that's incredibly wise. But I think one of the things that I hear from a lot of people is like, when I have more money, then I'll tithe. When I'll have more money, then I'll save. When I have more money, then I'll invest. And we know life gets more expensive. And that's one thing I found in my 30s is you think, well, I'll make more money. Well, you may make more money, but you're not making more money because your expenses rise. Kids are expensive.
They are.
Marriage is expensive.
That's right. So
Life
true.
is expensive. So if you don't learn to live off 80% when you're making less money, you'll never
100%.
learn how to live off 80%. And I think that keeps us in financial bondage and keeps us at that place. So in approaching 30, I want to look at, getting out of debt, eliminating my debt, acting my wage.
That's right. That's right.
That type of thing. Anything else in that regard you think of somebody?
I think of Warren Buffett's number 2 guy. He said one of the things he was most proud of in his life was not moving the goalpost. And I didn't understand, I didn't get quite what he was saying at the beginning, but he said, when we were in our 20s, we were just barely getting by. He said, I was in extra schooling. We weren't making anything. We got to our 30s. I started making some good money. He said, but we never continued to move that goalpost in our wants and our needs and the other things. Because when your income goes up, like you said, expenses are going up for you too, just inflation, everything else. But then 2, your desires, right? And there's nothing wrong with having desires and meeting some of those wants and desires there. But if you take your whole income to meet those desires, even though you're making more money, you're still at the same exact financial spot you were because your expenses are so high. And so I think if you can keep those goalposts from moving in your life, that is another big thing that will be able to help kind of from a financial standpoint.
I like that too. And one of the things that I think in terms of now that I didn't in my 20s, but I would strongly encourage people as they approach their 30s, is to think in terms of security. Mm-hmm. If you get that vacation, but you so leveraged yourself financially that it cost you security, it's going to stress you out. The stress of paying for that debt is going to last longer than the 5-day vacation and the joy that came from it.
100%.
And so out of that, to think in terms of security, to think in terms of a manageable debt load. If I can't get out of debt completely, let me have a manageable debt load that does not stress me out every week, even if that does mean like the vacation may be 3 days versus 5 days.
That's right.
Or things like that. Because if I lose security financially and all I'm thinking about while I'm on vacation is how I'm going to pay for this.
That's right.
That's one of those things that it's just not worth it.
No, and I'd say be tighter on yourself when you're in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
If you could be tighter on yourself when you're younger, things are going to get more expensive, as we said, but then also, too, you built that discipline early.
Yep.
If you don't have that discipline early, it makes it that much harder in your 40s, 50s, 60s, et cetera, 30s, whatever the case may be, if you haven't put that discipline in. Because when we were in our 20s, we went on these nice vacations. Why can't we do it now? We're making more money, right?
Because then it's not just you moving the goalposts.
That's right.
Your wife or your husband or your children. They
move
move goalposts.
You move the bar up. You better not go back down. That's right. That's it. So start small, So that's what I would say.
I like it. Any other tips financially and things? I love that. Don't move the goalposts. Keep a strong level of living that's manageable. That as you grow, that things like that. Anything else you'd say to people? I would say
2 things. I had a mentor tell me a while back, and he said, never take financial risks that will sink the ship. So he said, it's okay if you could get a nick on your boat or maybe a small hole at the top. He said, but never do something that's going to put a hole you can't repair. Don't make that investment. That was a good one. He also told me, be careful of averages. He said, averages are dangerous. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, you got to think about it. Averages, a lot of times, they're measuring the guy who's living under the bridge, and they're measuring the billionaire. He said, that's not your typical average. He said, those averages will make you think, hey, the average American only has $400 set aside for an emergency. That's really not true for the average person, and if you take out the bottom and you take out the top. And he said, you got to be careful because you'll start thinking, hey, I got $600 set aside. I'm doing good. And so he said, be careful of averages. He also, the same guy told me, he said, don't get scared when the boat's rocking. And he was talking about political risk, economic risk, like we're seeing today, interest rates going up and other things of that nature. The boat will always rock. Don't get scared and jump out. Stay consistent.
I like that. That we've talked about this, and me and you have had experiences where like we saw like a fun way, like, oh, we can make quick money here with this investment or things like that. And I would say with investments, and we talk about this all the time, do not invest any money in things like that. Like it could take off quickly.
That's right.
That you cannot afford to lose.
That's right.
And that type of thing. So it's okay to make some of those investments.
That's
that could
right.
be fun, or that type of thing. But I know a whole bunch of people who got burned in crypto. I know a whole bunch of people who got burned in some of these things where it's like it's a hot thing.
That's right.
Let me go buy GameStop now. And like after like they 6 weeks after it going, and then they lost money. So you never invest money in things like that. That would be something I'd tell myself that I cannot afford to lose.
I've learned I am the worst day trader there is.
And you're very good and smart at but I'm with you. It's like reading the market is not my...
No, and I would be cautious too. Like I'm not, I have money in stocks. I have it in mutual funds, index funds. I'm not saying anything bad there. But what I would say is the fundamentals that we've learned from 30, 40 years ago that the Buffetts and the Grahams and the different ones like that have spoken about, they didn't have instant trading in those days. Right. They didn't have the emotions. They didn't have the instant sale. I got scared. And so a lot of that stuff has changed. They had to go to a financial advisor or go to a planner to be able to make that decision. And because of all that, they were able to talk them out. They were able to put some reasons, some rational back in there. We don't have that nowadays. If I want to close an account tomorrow and pull all my money out, I can, and so can 1,000 other people. Just like we saw with the Silicon Valley Bank just this past week. Billions and billions run on the bank in literally 2 days. I mean, decisions can happen and things can swing quick now. So I do like, from that standpoint, being more diversified from an index fund standpoint, different things like that with low cost, leveraged out, where you never know what's going on in a boardroom or a decision that's getting made that could tank a stock tomorrow. So you're kind of a little bit more leveraged there.
Now, and that would be something that, like, for sure, I would tell myself going back then. I think for a lot of people is the power of a company retirement plan. Get in it if it's available to you.
That's right.
A 401k, or sometimes in the church world, it's a 403b.
Yep.
Those types of things. If there is that company match, it's a free dollar.
Yes, that's right.
It's a free dollar. Take money and put it in that and get a free dollar.
100% return.
If we sat here and played a game, it's like, I'm going to give you $1.
That's right.
And I put $1 on the plate, the table, and then you put $1 and be like, you keep mine.
That's right.
You would play that game all day long.
All day.
And we literally have companies that offer that to employees, and they're like, I'm not going to play the game. It's like, why would you not play that game? You put $1 down, I put $1 down, you keep my $1.
That's right.
Like, the only thing you have to do is put $1 down.
That's right.
So I would go back and tell people, if you have that, like, immediately, if you can take that to 10% of your income and you have that match, take it. Like, that's right. It's a guaranteed dollar from that. And then after that, talk to a financial advisor. And one of the things that I really suggest is people talk fees there, because a lot of times you get the wrong financial advisor, they will take the fees.
That's right.
And put you in a program or a financial vehicle that
they
gives
make more money.
They make more money on. If you look at like the basic S&P, 500 index,
that's right.
That's a fund that you go back and look how it performed
right.
20 years ago. It beats most mutual funds, things like that. I'm not saying put it in that fund and that type of thing, but I'm saying, like, that's a simple fund that you can look at that'd be like, hey, if I'd have put $1 in there 20 years ago,
that's right.
It would have served me well, versus some of these other vehicles financial advisors will kind of put people in.
Right.
So there's things like that to kind of look at, but fees is really as important when you're looking at that.
It's 100. And Tony Robbins' book, Money, we both read that on that subject.
Master the Game.
Yeah, Master the Game. That was awesome. He really kind of hits that great. The best job of explaining, if you want more information on that. But you do have to be careful of those fees. You do have to be. I remember I had a guy years ago who came and talked to us on some 401k stuff, and he suggested I move from this fund to this fund. And it went from like 0.025 to 2.45 expense fees. So, I mean, it was over, 10 times more fees in what was getting charged there. And he had his thoughts on why he thought that fund was better. But at the same time, the market wins 96% of the time. So, we all think we can do better. We all think we can guess better. But if you're winning 96% of the time, and you're getting a dollar for dollar match. You got 100% return, plus
Yes.
you're in an investment vehicle that will win 96% of the time. That, to me, that's a smart way to go. And I would say don't stop there. Obviously there's limits on 401ks and 403bs, et cetera, but I think sometimes people maybe hit that match and say, oh, I'm maxed
done.
out. You're not done. You're done with that vehicle, right? And there's other vehicles, whether pre-tax, post-tax, whatever the case may be, that you can invest to kind of diversify to be able to make sure you got things good when you get to that retirement point.
Yeah. Man, I like it.
So.
I like it. Well, let's just, let's make this one just about money, and then we'll
Okay.
come back and do another one.
All right.
What other things do you see, like, with the financial arena that people need to be aware of now that you would tell a buddy or something like that regarding finances and budgeting, or like any of those things that you think of, like general money tips?
Well, if I had, I think it's basic, right? Like I try to keep things simple. I've had a mentor of mine tell me there's power in simplicity. And I think sometimes we can try to get so complex that we forget that when we focus on one thing extremely hard, with passion, with focus, with energy, it's amazing the momentum that happens there.
Yeah.
And I've caught it in my own life for years, even into my 30s. I'm gonna put a little bit of this, I'm gonna do a little of this, I'm gonna do a little of that, I'm gonna do a little of this, I'm gonna spread it out. Well, yeah, I got 10 or 12 different investment vehicles, different types of things. But at the same time, it's so little that even if something happens in one of those,
You don't feel it.
You don't feel it. And so I would say, know what you're investing in, kind of invest what you know. For me, I get just a random example, but I'm in insurance business, and so I know the insurance market. I believe in index funds, and it was several years ago when COVID hit, I was looking at it, and the insurance stocks all dropped like 75%. People were worried about the pandemic. Hey, is it going to hit the different things? And I was like, most of these companies are life and health type stuff. The government was coming in to do coverage there, so I invested in it because it was something I knew. It was spread out, and invested in it, and it doubled its return in 6 months.
Yep.
Now, that's not Ryan, you're so smart. That's if you know your market, if you know something, invest in what you know. That is a big thing.
I think that's a great point for so many people when they're looking at financial things, is invest in what you know. Like if you don't know about real estate, don't invest in it. Just because you went to one seminar on house flipping does not mean
No, that's right.
you're going to be an expert and
That's
make a
right.
killing in this area. Become an expert.
That's right.
In what you know. So if you know insurance, invest in insurance. If you know real estate, you can read that market better.
That's
but
right.
become knowledgeable in that, because if not, you'll come at the mercy of a predator somewhere in that field, whether it's the market in and of itself or in real estate or things like that. Where you get taken advantage of, and you see those things. So I think invest in what you know and become knowledgeable there. How do you think in terms of like multiple streams of income, or I know we both believe that wealth is like when you have money working for you. That I'm not working for money. That money is working for me. That
100%.
while I sleep, my money is working, generating more money. And that type of thing. And I think that takes away that spirit of mammon of like, I've got to constantly work more. The spirit of Pharaoh of like, you will work and you will work and you will work and you will work and you will work for this. And out of that, flipping that and being like, no, I want money to work for me. I don't want to work for money. In building like wealth in terms of like investment vehicles or multiple streams of income, things that are then making money, how do you think in terms of that? Do you aggressively look for multiple streams of income, or do you just find those areas of expertise of like, I think that this area is something that I am knowledgeable in and can generate more income or revenue?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I 100% agree with you. We don't want to be where we're just work, trying to get to that point. And, I think I believe in putting in money into retirement, but I think never trying to think of another way to be able to earn additional streams of income while you're working, and just hoping that you have enough when you get to 65 and the market doesn't tank or something doesn't change, there's not a war, there's not big economic factors that have everything down. I think you need multiple things. And that's where I really think having your own business in some form or fashion.
Even if you work a job, having an own business,
100%.
for the tax benefits alone.
Tax benefits alone. That's exactly. And plus too, we talk about retirement vehicles. When you own your own business, there's some other things you can do, right? And you and I have talked about this recently. There was a book came out by the Financial Samurai, Buy This, Not That. I learned something huge in there. If you have your own business, right, there's the standard deduction, which I think in 2023 is like $13,850 or somewhere along those lines. Well, if you have kids and you want to start trying to help them, it's one of those things, if you own your own business, you can pay your kids to work, saying they can do some type of work, whether it's modeling, finances, helping with the budgeting, or helping with the books, or whatever the case may be. You can actually pay them. That gets deducted from your income. You've paid your kids $13,850. They're able to put some of that, like maybe up to $6,000, $6,500 into a Roth IRA, which will help set them up for future planning. And then at the same time, they have extra money, whether if you want to be able to use that money for them to be able to teach them budgeting and tithing and different expenses. Maybe it's school, maybe it's college, maybe it's whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things like that having your own business creates that type of opportunities. And that's where, to me, that creates that freedom, that creates that creativity. And when you say, hey, I can make this money, then I can pay it out to my kids, who I'm going to be giving it to anyway in some form or fashion, and not get taxed on it. That's another one of those things, like doubling your money, $1 for $1.
Yes.
And so it's a win on that front as well.
I really, you mentioned, because I really like that book, By Sam. How do you say his last name?
Drugan, I believe is how you say it. Yeah.
But that would be a book. We can end with this of like books that have helped us financially. I really like that book. That's probably the last financial book that I enjoyed that just kind of, helped me. And he's got a great email, The Financial Samurai.
He does.
We get a weekly email from that. That's one that we both read. So Buy This, Not That, Money, Master the Game, Tony Robbins, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is old.
Man, you're hitting all the good ones.
Classic. Anything else like that, or a book that may come to mind that you think kind of helped you kind of, take control of money? And take Robert Moore on the spiritual side. Robert Morris, The Blessed Life. Talks about that principle of giving, is a wonderful book to kind of hit it from a spiritual side. But any other books or podcasts or things like that
I
you
would
listen
say for the person who's in that spot where it's like, hey, I got to get my money right? Like, I got to figure something out. I'm in debt. I got credit card debt. I got this and that. Dave Ramsey's book, The Financial Peace University, is the best book in the world for someone getting started, to me at least. All the books you mentioned, whether it's the Financial Samurai book, whether it's the Mastering the Game, that's it. All those, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, all those are phenomenal books. There's a ton of other books. You can find them, tons of resources out there. But if you read those three, you've got the gist of what you need. I would be cautious, again, because the market's changed so much and technology's changed. Some of these books that were written 50 years ago, there's some great principles in there, but the goalposts have changed, the field's widened, the lines are different, and the rules are different. So
it's new rules.
So I would say not be cautious of them, but be cautious of them, and there's good advice, but there's also some things have changed from that standpoint. So that would be my suggestion on that.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. You got Siri helping us out.
Let me tell y'all what y'all need to read.
That's right. Smarter than us all. Have you seen those programs now? It's like you can be like, create a rap song about Joel Sims. I like that.
It's crazy. They've even got SEO stuff now where like you can write articles for your websites and all these other type things. Give it a topic, and within 20 seconds you got a 500-word article. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like we would have had this in high school.
Oh, it's just a dream. Our school actually sent us an email of like letting us know. Caution. And like, watch your kids, because the school can't even tell.
No.
It's the kids writing it.
It is.
So
they could tell probably with me in high school. They could have told. Like, no.
If they'd had it before and after.
This guy didn't write this. So, that's funny.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Until then, be blessed, and may you just see God do some wonderful things in your life.